And good afternoon, everybody. It's 2 o'clock. It's time for another edition of Talking Sports. I'm Sergeant Rock. Stovall's out. He's out somewhere surveying potholes and assaying. What's the word? Assessing vehicular damage to vehicles due to potholes. Here's what we're going to be talking. Well, he's coming though. He's going to be here. We got Mike Cox in the captain's chair. Here's what we're going to be talking about today. The Fighting Illini, they're on a roll. They didn't win like one in a row.
But it was a good win, though.
Huh?
It was a good win.
It was a good win. Any win's a good win.
Well, particularly who they beat and where they were at. So.
Minnesota up in what they call the barn. Also, this is the last week of the Olympics in Sochi.
Thank God.
Yep. Baltimore Ravens' Ray Rice knocked out his fiance. That's not funny. We don't condone spousal abuse.
I'll explain my chuckle when we talk about it.
All right. NFL Combines got underway yesterday in Indianapolis. We'll talk about that a little bit. Also, the Brooklyn Nets, they worked out Jason Collins yesterday. He might sign a 10-day contract.
Indeed.
And finally, we're going to talk about this. Does anybody else other than me, thinks that the NBA All-Star Game is a utter joke?
I do.
You think it's a joke?
Yes, sir.
I do too. We're going to talk about that too. We got all that and more coming up on this edition of Talking Sports. You be sure to stay tuned. It just shows all of it, don't it?
Hey, even when you're sitting front ways, you're sideways.
That's one profile you don't want to see.
Sir, could you turn to the side? I am. Welcome back to Talking Sports, WBCP, 1580, UPTV, 7 a.m., 9 a.m. Channel 5 on your Comcast cable.
99 if you don't know. What's that is?
You only can't,
like we can read lips, right?
She said, no.
It's on one of those channels though. Oh, she's coming over.
I got her.
On Uverse.
Uverse.
99 on Uverse.
Uverse. Uverse.
Aren't those the same thing? Oh, no, wait. It hasn't been approved yet. Never mind.
Let's see. They haven't made the merger.
Who?
Do you know that?
Comcast and Time Warner.
Right.
Oh, really?
Do you know that right now there are only like 6 television providers in the entire world? Companies that provide you the visual perspective, which is TV.
You know, this is getting utterly ridiculous.
It is. You think about it. You got Disney.
Time Warner. Well,
We talking about it. Time Warner.
AT&T, Uverse,
Uverse,
Comcast, DirecTV,
and Dish.
and MediaCom.
Media. Look at that.
that's ridiculous.
You know what that means?
No more free TV.
The revolution
Super Bowl.
will not be televised.
Uh,
Is what it means.
Super Bowl.
And the Super Bowl will become pay-per-view.
No, it
Now I
won't.
finally got Mike Cox saying what I've been telling
if
you.
the Super Bowl becomes pay-per-view, look for me to stop watching the Super Bowl.
Yeah, you will.
You'll have no choice.
You're right. As you're sitting there
Rabbit ears.
in your government-issued clothing.
Eating his government cheese.
That's it.
I'll be over somebody else's house.
Probably a government house. Government house.
What is the world coming to, Joseph?
Is coming to a new world order. NWO. Dun, dun, dun.
This is getting ridiculous. This is getting crazy.
There you go. You know what you need to do? You need to start the revolution. And it starts right here on Talking Sports, WBCP 1580, your leader, Sergeant Rock. Speaking of a revolution, there's about to be a revolution.
Man, what you putting your Kool-Aid today? You awful jolly for some reason.
All them potholes.
Yeah, I know. He been out
Bouncing his
collecting
head
money.
off the headliner.
No, he been out there collecting money.
This is what happened when I was driving that over here. That's the ride over here.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I did.
Stay off of Windsor Road.
Stay off the roads.
Period.
Ridiculous. Fighting Illini, I went on the road. You saw this segue, see how smooth that was?
Mm-hmm.
Went to Minnesota, went to the barn.
Won a basketball game.
60 points.
Dominated the basketball game.
49.
Minnesota's lowest point total of the year, I believe, or second lowest one.
I'm going to say this because nobody else. It's like the statement we're going to make is like a tree falling in the woods if nobody's there. Did you help it up? Anyway, the score was 13-4. Minnesota was up 13-4. No, wait a minute, 14-3. Watching the game, and this is the comment I made. The next basket, whoever scores the next basket will win this basketball game.
You said it.
I said it. And here's why I said it. At that point, Illinois looked worse than they even looked when they only scored the 39, 38 points against Ohio State. They came out in that game against Minnesota and they were lethargic. You know, Coach always talks about effort and all these other adjectives he used to describe the team. At that point, when it was 14-3, Illinois couldn't get any worse. And the reason why I said the next basket wins the game is because of this. Minnesota's at home. Things are flowing perfect for them. If they score 2 or 3, now it's either 16 or 17 to 3. Psychologically, do you think Illinois could have overcome that?
No.
If Illinois scores the next basket, it goes under 10. At that point, psychologically, they then think we got a chance. And knowing the history of playing up there in the barn, which Illinois has basically dominated that series.
Right. But it's something like
14-1 or
yeah,
something like
yeah,
14
they what about
13,
There you go.
Or 13 out of 14.
And that's why I said it, is because, you know, we talked, Namika was on here last week. We talked to sociology and psychology of sports and stuff like that. Kendrick Nunn hits a 3. And Kendrick Nunn decided there was no way he was going to lose. Now, the rest of the guys, this is what happened, I think, in the psychology of it. He didn't know what the rest of the guys were thinking, but he decided at that point he was not going to lose that game.
So he was going to come out shooting.
There you go. Now, what's the difference in a basketball team? Everything else looks good when you're making shots. If you make shots, your defense looks good, your rebounding looks good, everything looks good when you're making shots. And once he started making shots, everybody else started making shots.
Now, you know, unfortunately, you know, I didn't get a chance to watch the game. But did they start Nunn or did he come in off the bench?
He started.
They started, yeah.
But here's the key. He got pulled from the floor in the first, I want to say 60 seconds, 60 to 90 seconds. There was something happening that John Gross saw that made him take him off the floor. He put him back in, obviously. But he got pulled early in that game. Now, once again, they win the game. To the victor goes the spoils. You give credit to. But whatever Gross saw, you have to tip your hat to him. Because after he put him back in the game, he went off.
Well, maybe just put him over to talk to him.
Right. Maybe it's, you know, what we talk about. Sometimes if you're a starter and you're young, you're so amped that energy actually is hurting your team.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you old DJ, he's at 78. Everybody else is at 45 or 33.
33. And a third.
And a third. You had a little thing you put in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Put a little tape around it or whatever.
Make sure it stayed in place.
And then you heard shh, shh, shh. Before the song came on, you had a couple of them.
It's frying bacon, man. I miss my LPs.
But I think that's where, and now, being a good coach or even a pilot, now he's got to adjust the flaps. Because Kendrick Nunn's here. Malcolm Hill's about right here with him. Then you got a couple guys down here. And what he's doing is he's almost just like they talk about playing chess. He's got to move the pieces. Because the energy that he played with I think correlated with the energy that Igwu played with. And then the more Igwu scored, and he didn't score that many points. What, 10 points?
14, something like
14,
that.
yeah.
14.
14, I think.
You notice he didn't foul out? You notice the mindset changes in terms of, I think when your shot's not falling, he's more aggressive off defensively, more contact with players. Offense, he always gets that offensive foul in terms of, setting the screen out high. A lot of those things did not happen, all because something as simple as the ball going in the basket.
Feels good to win.
Yes, it does. I think obviously it's too little too late in terms of regular season. But I think what it does.
Oh, you can say that like they got some kind of. They got the Big Ten tournament coming up.
I'm gonna say this to you, Sarge. And it's
what?
not. I'm not saying it like with certainty or a 75% chance. I watched 3 games this past week. I watched Nebraska go into Michigan State
Yeah.
and bang them. I then watched Wisconsin go to Michigan and bang them.
Did you see Boston College
Go to Syracuse and bang them. There you go. Teams that weren't supposed to win and win in hostile environments, they won. All because of one thing. They were able to put the ball in the basket. And the reason why I'm bringing you talking about regular season, tournament basketball, one and done basketball. If you're the favorite and I'm the underdog and I come out and I'm putting the ball in the basket, guess what happens to yours? It shrinks. That's why upsets happen. It's because now as a favorite, I am so concerned about putting the ball in the basket that I can't put the ball in the basket. Most underdogs come out and just throw caution to the wind. I throw it over to Mike. Mike may have been shooting 23% from 3 land all year. Mike is so relaxed now. Mike could make it from the toilet.
So he's shooting 24% now.
Yes.
He's shooting, he's shooting 42%. And that's what's happening. Last night, Michigan State plays Purdue.
Could not miss.
They knocked down 12. They only made 1 2-point basket in the entire first half. All their points came from the 3 line and the free throw line.
Purdue did.
Michigan State.
Oh, Michigan State.
They ended up with 94 points. Now, this is the same team
That Nebraska thumped.
at their own place where they couldn't even score. I think they barely broke 50. This game, the uncertainty of college basketball, is all. There's only one common denominator. Put it in the basket.
Well, let's look at the Big Ten as a whole. Is the Big Ten a lousy conference or are the teams that darn good?
I think it's the latter. I think what's happened, you've got, like I said, you've got 5 teams that are clearly in that, as I said before, that upper echelon. Ohio State, Iowa, Michigan, Michigan State, Wisconsin. That's your upper echelon teams. But there's not that much of a separation from those 5 and the other 7. If the top team is Michigan State and Nebraska's right down here in that 6-7 position, and I can see Nebraska beat Michigan State at their own place.
Mm-hmm.
But to go to Michigan State and win that game, or even Minnesota, and Minnesota was kind of that bubble team right now, trying to get in the tournament. Illinois is in dead last, and they beat them. I mean,
They beat him bad.
that game was over with. When you look up at the scoreboard, there's 2 minutes left, and there's a double-digit lead on the road. As Mike just said, that's a bad loss for Minnesota.
And they said this on Big Ten Network last night after it was over with, that if Minnesota had won, it wouldn't necessarily do so much to help them, but losing it hurt them bad.
That's it. That's it.
You lost to Illinois.
Right. And I just, like I said, I just look at the conference as a whole. You know, Penn State.
Well, you look at Northwestern is right around 500 right now. So
There you
something
go.
close to that. Northwestern.
Right. At the beginning of the year, if they first 3 games, everybody was licking their chops to play Northwestern.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to touch that team.
Mm-hmm.
Not
And,
now.
and going back to what I said before about tournament basketball, that's why they call it March Madness. The 3-point line has changed college basketball. Because you can be as have twice as much talent as I have, but guess what?
Oh, we got a call. We got a caller. Dang, Joe.
Let me take care of that for you there, Sarge.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Mike, for doing Sarge's job. Everybody gets to see it now on TV, UPTV to be exact. Channel 99 on Uverse,
Yeah,
Channel 5,
Everywhere.
Comcast, everywhere else.
my bad.
I don't know how you
Oh,
throw all that up in there.
yeah, we'll just put it on up here.
Man, let me help y'all out. Bam.
Oh, is that how that works? You only slid it 2 more inches?
That's it.
3599227. Talking sports, talk to us, caller.
Hi, I'm trying to get a hold of LaRonda Hess.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Hold on 1 second, man.
I think I better take that call.
You might want to take that call.
Be right back, folks.
Okay. I'm glad on live TV he just walk away, as a host. But what the question he asked is, Big Ten that good of a conference, or
Well, according to Jimmy Dykes from ESPN, no, they're not. Because he thinks the the Big 12 or whatever Kansas is in, or Southwestern Conference, whatever it's called nowadays, is the best conference in America. Then again, I don't think that much of Jimmy Dykes either.
well, I've heard one of the formulas when you try to describe a Final Four team.
Mm-hmm.
They said the formula is you have to have a top 20 offense, top 20 defense, and you have to have at least 2 professional prospects
Right.
on your team. Well, let's look at the Big Ten. Let's start with Michigan State. I think most people think they've got
4.
Gary Harris, Adrian Payne, Appling, the guy that's hurt right now, Dawson.
Dawson.
Let's see here. Kaminsky.
Did you say Gary Harris?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you've got those guys. You go to Wisconsin. Decker. Sam Decker, to me, is a prospect. The big kid, I want to say his name is Kaminsky for
Something like-
Wisconsin.
right.
44. Looked real good against Michigan the other day.
What about Jackson?
Jackson, tweener, he's possible. The other kid, the freshman, Nigel,
Harris? No.
but he comes off the
I
bench,
know you're
about
talking
6'9".
Yeah, big kid.
Yeah, he's nice. So you got a couple there. Let's look at Michigan. Stauskas,
Stauskas, absolutely.
big dog,
Little dog.
little right, GR3.
GR3. There you go. There you go.
So
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
that's
What about LeVert?
he's getting there. He's getting there. I think he says, but he looked good the other day. Then we look at Ohio State. They got a plethora of guys. Sam Thompson. Everybody looks at Kraft as I look at Kraft would be one of those guys. If you had a championship caliber team, you bring him in, and Kraft could be the kind of that glue guy, defensive guy, handle the ball, set other guys up, and get you a bucket when you need it.
And as ugly as his shot is, he can still shoot.
That's it.
Lakers could use him right about now.
You look at a LaQuentin Ross. I think he might have the potential. Amir Williams,
Yep.
Linzel Smith Jr. So when we look at these teams, there is that formula that they talk about. But now you go over to the Big 12, starting at Kansas, and they've got they've got Andrew Wiggins. They've got, let's see, who else on that team? Good guard play.
You got 2 or 3 of them.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
We then go to
Who else?
we go to Oklahoma State. We look at Martellus. Is it Brown?
Mm-hmm.
You got Marcus
Mark
Smart. For whatever troubles he's had, he's still a potential pro.
There's 2.
You look at Iowa State. MJ, the guy who just scored 48 for them. Kansas State, I know that the freshman Foster on that team has been kind of leading the way for them. Baylor's got a couple of guys. So I think if it's pure talent, I think the Big 12 does have a slight edge over the Big 10. I believe the edge the Big 10 has over everybody, coaching.
Yeah.
I think if you look at the coaches, you look at a Bo Ryan at Wisconsin. Has not been to a Final Four, but he's been consistent ever since he's been in Wisconsin.
Yep.
You look at a Thad Matta. He's been to a Final Four and heck of a recruiter. Team was in the Elite Eight last year. You look at John Beilein. John Beilein went to the championship game last year. Tom Izzo. You don't even have to.
You don't have to say anything else.
If you're a senior, you will. This
You're going
senior group,
Final Four.
right? This senior group, if they don't make it, would be the first senior group in the history of his coaching that has not been in the Final Four.
Which is what, 20 years now? Something like that.
So
Yeah.
imagine,
Every
because
20
he's
years.
been every 4 years. He's been to 6 Final Fours. So, like you said, 20 years. So this would be number 7.
Right.
I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Well, and even getting down into that second echelon. What's the guy's name at Nebraska? Tim Miles. He's a
Mhm.
great coach.
Right.
Great coach. And as much as I hate to admit it, the guy up in north of Chicago.
Oh, Chris Collins?
Yeah, whatever his dookie name is. I mean, he's a good coach too, and he's got the pedigree.
Right.
So, I mean, that's one of the reasons I'm sure that Northwestern is playing as well as they are
Mhm.
right now, is that they bought in. They know he's got the pedigree.
Mhm.
They know he's got the genes.
Right. Yeah.
And even here locally, John Gross is a good coach because we've seen what he did at
Ohio. Mhm.
and
What he did last year.
last year. He was on the Buckeye staff with Mata
Right.
for a long time. So, I mean, you're right. I mean, Big Ten's got excellent coaching all the way around.
I think the issue that we'll see right now, we talk about numbers going, we're getting to the end of February, getting ready for March Madness. The Big Ten tournament. The only way that I think the Big Ten can get more than the upper echelon, those 5 teams in the tournament, one of the Nebraska, the Minnesota, Penn State, Northwestern, Illinois, one of those teams has to win the tournament.
Yeah, yeah.
Because those 5 are a lock. I think.
And let's not forget Indiana.
Right.
Yeah, both in terms of
Coaching and talent. Tom Crean has done an excellent job. People look at what's happening to them this year. Well, you lose Oladipo, who's quite arguably he was a top 3 pick.
Yeah.
Cody Zeller was a
Top 10
10
pick,
pick.
top 20 pick. Whatever
There you
it
go.
was.
You lose 2 guys like that to the draft. You bring in some freshmen. You got a relatively young team. There's going to be a transition. This year's a transition. Indiana's going to be back on top. I mean,
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Because you can recruit, and it's Indiana.
That's it.
There's a history.
So going back, when we look forward, with only about 4 games left in the regular season, you're starting to look forward. I think on the final weekend, Michigan or Michigan State will be the conference champ. I would be surprised if either one of them fell off to the point where they weren't in the mix. We've seen stranger things happen, but I think
Right.
they'll be the 1 or 2. But in the tournament itself, I had mentioned earlier about Wisconsin and how I liked that team earlier this year, and they had all the elements for a Final Four team. If I was looking at a tournament favorite in terms of a team that comes in injury-free, a team that's kind of clicking on their cylinders, a team that's got a good point guard in Jackson, you mentioned him. Wisconsin is one of those teams that I can see them getting hot over a weekend and knocking down some threes and putting themselves in that championship game.
Absolutely. I mean, and they've done it in the Big Ten tournament relatively consistently.
Right.
When, everybody knows he's been in the top 4 or 5, whatever it is, forever since he's been there. But there have been times when they haven't necessarily been that good. But come Big Ten tournament weekend, they get hot, they make a couple of threes, they turn up the defense a little bit, and next thing you know, on Sunday they're playing for the championship.
Right.
And you're like, how'd they get there?
And now if you expand the conversation nationally,
Same thing applies. Absolutely.
same thing applies. And now, but you're starting to see those little cracks in the armor Syracuse. You just mentioned earlier, they lost to Boston College. Wichita State, still undefeated, but now they're getting challenged within the Missouri Valley by different teams. You look on the West Coast, Arizona, which was number one for most of the year, now they've lost 2 games in the past week and a half.
Right.
I think the grind of the regular season, and I think psychologically trying to be, I think the loss to Boston Colleges might be a blessing for Syracuse.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I think for the past 2 weeks they were playing against the record and not against their opponent, because they won 2 buzzer beaters, and the Boston College game was almost a third, where it was almost as though, okay, we're going to play at this level, and then we're going to try to flip the switch to jump up here.
Right.
And they pulled the
switch didn't
work. And now they tried to go to manual, and it still didn't fire up, and before they knew it, they had lost the game. And I think when you're talking about 18 to 22-year-olds, I think the grind of that, you start to see, oh man, it's February. I got to go to practice again.
Right.
I got to study. I think it starts to wear on the players to the point where they're like, they'll take an L to take a break.
Mm-hmm.
Because I still don't think that loss to BC affects Syracuse. I think they'll probably still be the overall number 1 seed in the tournament when we get to that point. You look at a team like Duke, took it on the chin against Carolina last night, but
Duke can't shoot.
Right.
I mean, they don't have the Chris Collins or the J.J. Redick or the Wojciechowskis
right,
to make that big shot.
They don't have that. But the other thing they don't have, Duke is kind of that donut team, as they like to call them. Even though Jabari Parker's playing in the middle, he's not a center.
No, he's not.
And I think what happens is, in the past, Duke had a big guy that kind of could clog the lane, block shots, that post layup or jumper that you could get from somebody in a crucial time that also set up
everything else.
The Wojciechowskis and the guy, because the defense collapsed, and then you get to J.J. Redick popping the 3 from out deep. They don't have that on this particular team. That's why I think the landscape this year of who is going to be that team to beat, I think this thing is pretty wide open.
Oh, it absolutely
this year.
is. Well, and while you were talking, I was thinking 2 things. One, does that make what Wichita State has done up until this point all that more impressive? And do they hop over Florida in the poll?
Well, I'd say 2 things. Regardless of the competition that you're playing, you got to give credit where credit is due. And if you're undefeated,
you're undefeated.
That's
the end of February.
You don't pick your schedule.
Right.
You play the schedule that's given to you, and to be undefeated after, and I think this is the key. Usually, a team like a Wichita State, who comes from that quote unquote second tier conference, they go to the Final Four. That's the accomplishment in most people's mind.
Right.
So the next year, maybe they come back and they're maybe a step below where they were at. This year they come back and they say, no, we're letting you see that we were not a fluke last year, and we're actually playing at a higher level. The best quote I saw, when they talk about Wichita State, they talk about them playing angry.
Right.
They said that Wichita State plays this way. If you get 5 steals, they're going to get 7. If you get 6 offensive rebounds, they're going to get 9. If you have 5 assists, they're going to have 8.
Well, they play with that proverbial chip on the shoulder, a lot like guys from Florida last year, Dunk City, Florida Atlantic or whatever.
Gulf Coast.
Gulf Coast.
Right.
Yeah. Played last year. They played loose and they played free, and it goes back to what you were talking about earlier. Are guys thinking too much, or are they just going out and playing? And they are. And I think, and kind of bringing it back home for just a moment, the game that Kendrick Nunn had last night was, you wait, he's going to go nuts.
Right.
Because he knows he can play. He finally figured it out that he can play.
Right.
And that goes back to what we y'all talked about last week and all that stuff. But when going back to Wichita State, they just don't care. You do whatever you want. This is what we're gonna do. A lot like Jordan in his heyday. I'm gonna back you down.
Right.
Spin to the right, spin to the left, to hit a fadeaway, and there's nothing you can do about it.
And that actually takes the heart of the opponent when you're playing.
Oh, yes, it does.
Because now you start to think, okay, If he did it that time, is he going to do it again? And if they, speaking of Wichita State,
Right.
they did it that time, are they going to come in our building and do that to us? So you already have a little apprehension already
They're already in your head.
ahead. And if they've won, that's half the battle before the game even
I would
starts.
see more than that.
You know.
But yeah, I understand what you're saying.
So-
and it's just like, okay, they told me they're going to do this, and they did it. Can I stop them? That doubt creeps in, and then, as we all know, you begin to, instead of just playing, you begin to think about how you got to play,
Mhm.
and then as you said, you're beat. So,
Right. Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting to see how, like I said, we've got basically a week to move into March Madness, and once we get into it, how this thing is going to play out. But I'm really going to be interested to see the quote-unquote top seeds and how they play come conference tournament time. Do they play loose enough, go out there, just play it, bang it, and win it, or what happens? We're going to go ahead and take a commercial break. And then we come back. I know Sam had a lot of stuff he wanted to talk about. He wanted to talk about women's figure skating from Sochi.
Ice dancing.
Ice dancing. He was really upset that Americans got shut out this year. Curling.
Look at him over there.
Sam does curling every Saturday at his house. It's called mopping.
Or it's called Bud Light.
But so we're going to talk about that and a lot more. Talking Sports, WBC 1580, UPTV, Channel 5, and 99 on Uverse. We'll be right back.
Get a brick of Wild Irish Rose.
As you can tell, we are wine connoisseurs when we're talking about Boone's Farm and
Night Train.
Night Train and Wild Irish Rose. Welcome back.
Thunderbird.
Talking Sports, WBCP 15. You ever do Shake 'em Up?
What is?
You remember back in the day, you remember white port, don't you?
Yeah, I remember White
You
Boy.
ever had a bottle of white port? White port is just a white wine. Wink.
Wine.
And you take a package of Kool-Aid
Grape flavor
or orange,
or orange? Okay.
and you dump it in a bottle of white port. Shake it up. That's why I call it Shake 'em Up. You want to talk about? You could fight 1,000 armies. You could make the movie 300 all over again if you drank a bottle of that.
No, a brick of Wild Irish Rose will make you do that.
Now, that's called liquid crack.
Yeah.
I obviously grew up in a really boring neighborhood.
But I will say this on TV while it's recording. We've heard of people who did that. You never did it. did you?
No,
No, I never did it either.
no, not me.
Just make sure the people at Uverse.
My sponsor wouldn't like that.
No, what is it? Rehab, the Prairie Center.
There's a reason why they call it AA.
I'm Sam. And I like this bottom of the bucket
Yeah.
stuff.
Thanks for sharing. You want my other recipe too?
When we went to break, we've been talking about college basketball. And March Madness is right around the corner, man.
I can't wait.
Yeah. High school is also, same time.
They started already. At least the girls.
The girls have.
Yeah.
The girls have already started. Boys still got a
Another week.
week, 2 weeks
You'll be
in terms of.
sick that week.
Wow.
Just checking.
Wow.
I need to plan.
I only catch bronco loseritis once.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll have to worry about bronco loseritis when basketball season.
Well, there's that deep crimson, maroon color itis loser or something. You might catch again. I don't know.
Okay, let's see here. What's in the magazine? Oh, you were talking, Mike. I'm sorry. I didn't know you were.
No,
I didn't know we were on the air.
Let's go to Sochi.
You want to go to Sochi?
Hey,
Ice dancing.
I got a joke for you.
You got a joke for them.
I asked my wife to make me a sandwich. So she did. Bada bing, I'm gonna be here all day.
Putin not happy.
No, he's not.
First of all, ice hockey. Women.
Yeah, beat yesterday. They played just as good as the men.
They play better than the men.
I mean, they was checking and all that. I thought a couple of fisticuffs was getting ready to break off.
First of all,
Oh.
Canada has won what, the last
4 women's, I believe.
it's only the United States and Canada really in terms of the competitive drive at that level. Do you think women's hockey is relevant on a global level right now?
No.
Should they remove women's
The
hockey?
only time you see women's hockey is in the Olympics.
Right. So the question is, I mean, but think about some other sports. You don't.
Hold on, don't a couple of colleges have women hockey teams?
Yeah, they've got women's hockey. But what I'm saying on the Olympic level, when you know it's Canada, you know it's the United States, that's basically how it's going to line up every 4 years. Should there be a moratorium on it until the other countries catch up? Or should it just be the aspirations to try to catch Canada and the United States?
I would say no, because, and what I thought about, we were talking about basketball earlier.
Mhm.
Back in the 70s, it was Russia and the USA.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
That was because of the Cold War thing.
well, right. But still, the rest of the world then began to play basketball.
Mm-hmm.
And we see, and we've seen recently, the past 10, 20 years, the US of A isn't necessarily coming home with the gold medal every year.
Right.
Other folks are catching up. So the ladies can play some hockey now.
Oh, I'm not doubting
And
their skill level in terms of, like I said, the Canadians and the Americans. What I'm looking at is the other countries getting their standards up to par with the Canadians and the Americans to have a more competitive pool.
I think they will if those other countries get behind hockey. We saw it in women's softball in the Olympics.
Yeah.
USA used to just, it was over with. Even the World Championship, USA beats everybody. Now Japan's jumping up and smacking them because they put an emphasis on that particular sport on the women's side of the Olympic house. So, go ahead, Sarge.
No, go ahead.
No, it's just, and so I think it's more a matter of, will other countries consider it an important thing?
Right.
And if they do, and they put their money behind it, then it'll come up. But should we pause it? That was a pretty good hockey game yesterday.
Yeah.
But you have to look. The biggest hockey countries are the U.S., Canada, and Russia. All these other little countries really don't get into hockey that much. And like Mike said, if they want to catch up, they're going to have to put some money behind it, develop some players, and become worthy opponents. But I don't see that happening.
So you don't see Sweden and Finland,
No, I don't.
Dubai,
No. No,
Jamaica.
yeah, man.
No, I don't. I don't see that happening.
Other thing is Sochi. We were talking off the air. Female bobsleighers. The United States went silver, bronze, and they brought in three of the teams had former Summer Olympic athletes.
Track stars.
Right. Lauren Williams, she was on the silver team. Asia Evans,
Bronze team.
Lolo Jones. Her team got 11.
Now they say they had 5 black women on the bobsledding team.
Mhm.
Unheard of.
Right, but what's happened? We just talked about it. The expansion of the sport in terms of who do you want to participate, meaning when a two-person sled, you have to have a pusher, but you can't have Herschel Walker being your pusher, meaning there's a weight distribution that has to occur after they push the sled and jump in and ride in the sled.
Mm-hmm.
You get somebody who is a summer Olympic athlete with the base that most hurdlers, or as Mike mentioned, a shot putter, heptathlon, say that 3 times, athletes, and you transition them into a winter sport like that where all they have to do, grab that sled,
Push it, jump
push it
in,
about
and
40
ride.
meters, put your head down, and
Now, hold on. What do they be doing back there?
just head down and ride. Ain't nothing else they can do. It's like riding your old Yugo you used to have, Anything you wanted to do, you had to get out of Yugo. So, it's the same thing. But I think just incorporating summer Olympic athletes into the sport is similar to what we talked about in terms of raising the elevation of other countries. The United States has said, we want to compete, We got to find a way to compete, and they found it.
This is the only time they ever really won a medal in bobsledding.
Right. And now that you see that, do you think that, will we see other countries incorporating their Summer Olympic athletes, who are sprinters and heptathletes and folks who are involved in other sports that have an opportunity to maybe take an advantage?
I can see it happening because, after all, those first 40 meters that you pushing that sled, that's where you working up all your speed.
Mm-hmm.
So you get a track star like the one girl. She won a gold in the 4x400 relay.
Williams.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you got that speed going down that ramp, and you climb in for the ride.
Now I know, for as long as I can remember, the marquee sport in the Winter Olympics was speed skating. And the United States normally, and I'm going to say, or usually, either a male or a female or on both sides had the dominant speed skater. This year, nothing.
The Ono dude, he didn't even go, did he?
No, he's the short track that he raced in, he didn't race it anymore. But even on the long track, Shawnee Davis was the odds-on favorite. He had won 2 gold medals in previous Olympics. He got 8th or 11th. On the female side, they were shut out on that side. But the issue there was not skating per se. The issue, per the skaters, was the suits.
And do you believe that?
Well, let's put it this way. The CEO of the company that made those suits was on TV this morning saying they're going back to the old ones.
Okay.
Now,
So,
I know that, just like with swimming, they do everything they can to cut friction, to cut drag. But for example, I'm going to use Shawnee Davis as an example. He's the number one guy in, I think, the 1,000 and 1,500 meters. And they come in 11th at the Olympics. I can see if you maybe got a silver or bronze. Then I'm going to say maybe it's the equipment. You got 11th.
you took a thumping.
Right.
So you can't blame that on
You can give a partial, but there's got to be something. Somebody, to me, I want to hear from the coaching staff. I want to hear from the folks on the USA committee when it comes to training. What happened that in the World Championships, these skaters were at least in the top 3, and now you come to the Olympics, and your top skater finishes 11th?
and you blame it on a little flap in your back of you.
There you go.
Yeah.
A little drag off your butt.
Yeah. I was catching a little wind. I couldn't go any fast. Yeah, right. I don't believe that.
Well, if you get beat by 100th of a second or a couple hundredths of a second, yeah, maybe, as you were saying, Joe. But to get just annihilated,
Right.
that's on you, my man. Sorry.
Right, and that's where I'm like, the entire team.
Maybe their focus wasn't there.
Well, and that's what, like I said, it would just be interesting to hear because, we don't like to hear, sore losers, for lack of a better term. But that's really, to me, is sour grapes.
Because, well, my question would be, weren't you using those suits in the Olympic trials?
Right.
And other races?
It's like you're sitting in the locker room right before your race, and they come in with a knight in shining armor suit and say, "Hey, Sam, here's your new speed skate
No,
suit."
the suits that they wore in the one before the trials. No, not the trials, but the race before the Olympics. What are they?
World Championship?
World Championship. They wore the old uniforms then.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
but still, a little extra drag is not going to cause you to go from being the best in the world,
Right.
in a story,
I agree.
to the 11th best.
I agree.
Right. And so that's what I'm saying. Are we going to get more of an explanation from the Olympic Committee other than this?
I doubt it.
You won't.
I doubt it.
Because they don't want to burn that bridge with the company that makes them.
Yeah, right,
and
exactly.
everybody knows who the company that makes them is. I mean, they're a major player
Right.
in the athletic apparel.
Because it's Under Armour
Under Armour,
Okay.
yeah. That's who
Yeah,
made it.
so,
who made the uniforms. But I'm just like, something just don't, it don't pass the smell to me.
well, and it probably never will because it's big money, as we all know the Olympics is.
Right.
And even, I mean, if you're Shawnee Davis, are you going to admit you weren't as prepared as you should have been?
Well, he seemed a little out of it when doing the post-race interview. Like he was shocked. I didn't know I raced that poorly.
Well,
But-
look at the
but,
scoreboard.
Right.
But, I gave it my all, and it is what it is.
It's 2 1s, not 1-1.
Now I guess the final thing on it, how when they show medal count,
Mhm.
and they different countries, and United States is right there in the medal
Yeah.
count.
Yeah, Norway, U.S. and Russia, they each have 25 medals, but Norway got the most gold with 10. They got 4 silver and 8 bronze, make a total of 22. Canada got 9. Matter of fact, they beat the U.S. Canada beat the U.S. The men's hockey team. What is it, 1-0?
1-0.
Mike. Canada has 9 gold, 10 silver, 5 bronze. U.S. has 9 gold, 6 silver, 11 bronze. Russia has 8 gold, 10 silver, and 7 bronze. Those are your top 4.
And the question I would pose, is it important?
No. Yeah,
If you think about I go back to Munich, 72, Montreal, 76, when the Eastern Bloc countries were just destroying us in the Summer Olympics. And we know why, obviously, now. I mean, I must break you. Getting the injections. Now, that just makes you a third baseman for the Yankees.
bada bing.
I'll be here all night, folks.
Yeah.
But because of that transition on the summer side, but you never really heard these stories with Winter Olympics in terms of, why does this guy from this country, he's such a great cross-country skier, compared to an American athlete. It was like you never heard the same correlation between performance and performance-enhancing drugs when it came to the Winter Olympics. And if we didn't win in the medal count, you never heard we've got to get better,
I think part of that may be because of the difference in uniforms. The summer uniforms, you got a pair of shorts on and a t-shirt, basically.
Mm-hmm.
The winter, I mean, they're all, back then, they're all bundled up, and the obvious physical stature of the woman wasn't isn't as apparent necessarily as it would be if she's out there, running the 100-meter dash with this little bitty Speedo thing on or whatever, and shorts and whatnot. I think that may play into part of it, but on a bigger scale, as you said, does it really matter? I don't necessarily think it does anymore.
The U.S. really never really other than figure skating. That's about the only thing the U.S. ever really got into is, I think, when it comes to the Winter Olympics. Skiing, yeah. But look at our country. The only place you really ski is where? Utah, Colorado. Some places in California I heard, never been.
Lake
But-
Placid in New York.
I mean, where do you curl at in the U.S.? Where you go?
Placid, New York, I think.
Where you go curling at in the U.S.?
I just said earlier.
Where do you go bobsledding at in the U.S.?
Well, we've all bobsledded.
Where
Come
do
on
you
Our
do these
sleds
things?
just weren't as good as the ones
Right.
they had.
We've all bobsled.
I know Mike used to ride down the hill in the garbage can top.
Whatever works.
That would be calling that's the luge.
That's a
Luge now. Or what's the other one? The
Yeah.
skeleton.
The skeleton, right.
Whatever it's
So it
called.
depends if you're laying on your back or if you're laying on your stomach. But I'll just because we as Americans, we always emphasize on winning and winning big. So, like I said, when the Summer Olympics weren't going our way after Munich and after Montreal, and then we had to boycott because we didn't go to Russia. But you start to see that turn, 84 in Los Angeles, Then you go to Seoul, Korea, and you start to see more of an emphasis on the summer side. I just wondered if it was any. I really you never hear that story for the Winter Olympics.
Well, I think that the only time, and this is obviously my own opinion, but the only time the Winter Olympics really mattered was 1980 when we beat Russia in hockey.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's that seminal moment, if you will, and I think the Winter Olympics changed to include some of the stuff that Shaun White allegedly is good at,
Right.
and so the grandness of the Winter Olympics isn't necessarily as great as the Summer Olympics because you have more things going on in the Summer Olympics than you do in the Winter Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
And after the Miracle on Ice, what happened after that from a U.S. perspective?
Yeah.
Not much.
Because you even see it now. Speaking of ice hockey, they tried to create, and I'll say create, some type of fervor because of the men beating the Russians in the shootout. But all that is professional all-star teams.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's the NHL Russians against the NHL Americans.
Yep.
It wasn't like we had sent some ragtag group of college guys over there and they won the shootout on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
It was an equal playing field. So I agree with you that in terms of importance and value, the political climate back then,
different.
The Russians had invaded Afghanistan. At that time, we were kind of just transitioning out of Vietnam. We were kind of looking like we were teetering on that superpower thing. Kind of questionable. And then we got a shot of adrenaline, HGH, or we went down to
Crazy.
synergistic. What's the little anti-aging? Hey, that's a 74-year-old man on the juice.
On the juice.
Yeah. So I was just throwing that out just to see where things were going. And closing ceremonies are Sunday, and then this will be done until
Thank God.
2018, where are they going in?
Somewhere in Japan, I thought.
Is that where it's going to be?
I have no idea.
I guess the one thing I will say, hopefully, at the Winter Olympics in 2018, it actually is winter.
Right.
Here it is. It's 64 degrees in Russia.
Well, one of the snowboarder girls posted a picture on Instagram or whatever of her sunbathing.
Right. They said that they have to go to these courses and spray them down with water and chemicals, and by doing that, it actually makes it hard for some of the skiers and snowboarders.
I can see that happening.
So I guess just take our weather and take it to the Olympics, and I think everybody will be okay with that.
Like you said, final ceremonies is Sunday. I'll be glad they're over with so I can get back to regular TV watching.
Blacklist.
See.
Oh, you haven't seen the Blacklist? Oh, dude, James Spader, he's awesome. NBC, Monday nights, I think it is.
What time?
9 o'clock, I believe.
See, that's it, man. I will talk about it off day. I know that.
You ain't that old.
It's not about age. It's about activity.
You ain't getting any.
Oh.
He getting ready to call you out, wasn't he?
No, he did.
The NFL Combines, they got underway yesterday. I guess most of the events take place tomorrow.
I think
Over the weekend, tomorrow, the first part of Sunday, I believe.
I think your receivers, quarterbacks, and running backs will fire it up tomorrow.
Right.
And then
The biggins on Sunday.
the big uglies, they'll start knocking heads on Sunday and because it'll go from the 22nd through the 25th. Now I know last week we talked about Michael Sam, with him coming out and the focus being on him. The thing I always am interested in is that who won't participate at the combine. The quarterbacks, a lot of times quarterbacks won't participate at the combine. They'll have their own pro day so that they can be able to show their footwork and agility and being able to throw the football and accuracy.
I thought that's what the combine was for.
Well, but let's think about draft stock and value. You're Johnny Manziel.
All 5'11" of them.
Right.
And change.
No,
And you've been overanalyzed, over-scrutinized. Really, there's nothing you can do right, is the point. Meaning you go to the combine and you throw, and there's a question about accuracy. stock comes down. If you're accurate, what does everybody say? Well, he's supposed to be accurate. He's a Heisman Trophy winner, blah, blah. You can't gain anything being Johnny Manziel. Now, if you're the kid out of Eastern Illinois who's came on the scene and people are curious because they never saw you at this level with these kind of athletes, it can only enhance your stock.
Right.
Therefore, this is that, coin toss of do you go, don't you go when it comes to the combine.
I would go.
If you were a top flight quarterback,
Yeah, I would go. I would go.
Well, the thing with the pro day is, from a quarterback's perspective, like Manziel's, if he's having a pro day down at A&M, he's going to throw to guys that he knows, and they can control it. Here at the U of I, they can control what happens. The combine, you can't.
Right.
You either go do what they tell you to do, or there's going to be a whole bunch of question marks.
Right.
Whereas here, or like down at Charleston, if they held a pro day down there for Garoppolo or whatever his name is, he can control the things that he shows the pro scouts. Versus, as I said, if he goes up to the combine, which I think that's where he's going, he went to the combine, or he's going to the combine, then you got to be able to do the things they want you to do.
So you're going to set up a little demo, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And that's what they do.
I want you to go 5 and out. That's all I'm going to throw. Maybe go 20 and out. That's all I'm going to throw.
That's what they do.
If there's a question about if you can make that pro NFL throw, if you're doing a pro day, you're going to highlight that throw.
Right.
So it just gives the prospective draftee, I think, better control of what he has to, or I shouldn't say has to, but what he shows and what he demonstrates.
Yeah.
Because all these guys know. I mean, if you're a quarterback at the U of I and there's been a question from the experts on TV who are calling your game as to whether or not you can make that 25-yard out throw, what are you going to show at the pro day? You're going to throw 125-yard outs.
Right.
So.
And then the last thing I'll say on the combine, to me, I think the combine enhances the guy from the small school.
Right.
Because now, me and Mike have been playing. Mike's at Nebraska. I'm at Ohio State. What's the matter, you?
Love that school.
You used to play alternate states all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, everybody sees me and Mike on ESPN every week, Big Ten Network, etc. If you even got on TV, but now you show up at the combine, and in obviously it's just shorts and t-shirts, but at least you can show
Outside.
you're standing side by side against a guy from Nebraska, a guy from Ohio State, and you're doing the same things that they're doing, and maybe doing it a little better. So going back to the point about who comes, who throws, who doesn't, etc. This is how, if you watch and I always talk about this when you're watching the NFL game and the NBA game. On Saturdays, we sit back and we watch certain guys play, and we think, oh, that guy can't miss. He can't miss, can't miss. Then 3-4 years later, you cut on TV on Sunday, and you don't see that guy. You see you. And it's like, who the heck is Sam, what, Altered States? I've never heard of that school. What's the matter with you? But it's because the NFL and the NBA, I think, do the best job of finding talent where other people don't think talent is located at.
Well, that's where you mentioned, a few shows back when we talk about how scouting has become basically videos now. So you can get these videos on YouTube. You send your videos out like you explained. And don't you think that a lot of coaches see these videos and that's how they go out and get these certain players?
I think it develops with a lot of coaches an interest in somebody they may not have seen to make them want to go out and see. But using Garoppolo down at Eastern as an example, the last film of him was a snowstorm where they got beat. And he didn't necessarily play that well.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, if you send out other videos or whatever, it may cause someone to take an interest, but I still think, like with anything, seeing it in the flesh is best.
All right. Well, we're going to go take a break here in a minute. Before we do, Ray Rice knocked out his fiance. Have you seen the video? In the elevator. He's dragging her out the elevator.
But he was nice enough to get her legs out so the doors didn't close on it.
And he was nice enough to close her legs when the man walked up there. I was like, dude, you done knocked out your fiance. He's trying to help her up. You know, that's dead weight. That's, you know, and he only, what, 5'9", something like that.
5'7".
He's a strong 5'7", though.
Well, he couldn't pick her up anyway. Dude was coming over to assist. So he slowly bagged away from her. Like, I didn't do it.
Only 2 people in the elevator. He didn't do it.
He didn't do it. But
she slipped and hit her chin on my fist.
But, you know, obviously, for report was that they were hitting on each other. And
he just hit her harder?
He knocked her out. Both of them went to jail. Both of them got out and went home together. Baby, why you hit me? You shouldn't say what you said. Anyway, it's in the hands of the district attorney. They're going to see what they're going to do about it. But you can bet your last dollar.
If you were a betting man.
You know, we don't condone betting.
We do not.
But if we did.
You can bet your last dollar that the commission going to have a whole bunch to say on this one.
Not only the commish, but I think the Ravens specifically, because the Ravens have been a team over the years who have kind of insulated their players. You go all the way back when Ray Lewis had his double murder charge.
Mm-hmm.
And we fast forward to today when Aaron Hernandez was charged. The very next day, the Patriots cut him. The very next day, he was charged, handcuffed. He was off the team the next day, period. Ray Lewis, obviously a different circumstance. He was charged. Finally, the only purpose of charging Ray Lewis really was to get him to tell him.
Yeah.
That was all that was. I mean, they knew he wasn't directly involved. But what did the Ravens do? They stayed with him. Jamal Lewis, running back in the day for the Ravens, federal drug charges. Went to prison. Came out of prison. Still a Raven. So this is going to be interesting to see if the Ravens management handle this situation the same way they've done in the past, where they've kind of insulated around their player.
What did they tell you about the Ravens organization?
Loyal to a fault. I mean, that's the way I read it, is that they showed the ultimate loyalty to Lewis and to Jamal Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
And now here you got a situation here.
So I guess he gonna say to the rest of it, it's all right to go knock out your spouse.
That's why I'm saying I'm interested to see how they respond. Do they insulate him the same way they did these guys? Like I said, we got one guy in a double murder case and another guy in a federal drug case. And they kept him around. And now you got this situation. Now my question here, number one, we all know the effects of domestic violence. We also know that one of the things that the NFL has been trying for years is to clean up the exterior image of its athletes off the field. Now, we got Riley Cooper this summer at a concert on video using the N-word, and they used it as kind of a, I guess for lack of a better, a teachable moment. You know, he went to anger management and sensitivity classes in the summer, and his teammates took him back in, and it was kumbaya, and everybody's happy.
And then Richie Cognito reaches his own head.
Right. And then Cognito comes up, and Miami says, ooh, man, with all this documentation, we got to cut our losses.
Mm-hmm.
Did they go far enough?
I don't think they did, because I think they scapegoated a lot of guys.
2 of them, in particular, yeah.
The trainer and the offensive line coach.
Yeah.
Because you just heard Joe Philbin come out, the coach for the Dolphins, and make, I need to be a little bit more cognizant of what's happening in the locker room, etc. Really?
Whatever.
You're the head coach. Where were you when all this stuff was happening? So, like I said, now you got a Ray Rice who comes off arguably his worst season.
True.
he's at that level of running back where, some running backs just kind of, their shelf life ain't that long.
Mm-hmm. Well, he just signed a contract for what? I had it around here somewhere.
And now do you cut? So the question is, do you say to Ray Rice, you know what? We got to let you go. And we got to let you go because you talked earlier about imagery. How do we look as an organization? How the Baltimore Ravens going to be perceived from this point moving forward if we keep you on this football team? Are we saying we condone your behavior, or are we saying, hey, your behavior will be punished by the proper authorities? That has no correlation to what happens here within our organization. So I pose to both of y'all, if you were Ozzie Newsome, the general manager of the Baltimore Ravens, do you keep Ray Rice or you let him go?
You gotta let him go, because you can't condone violence against women. You even go back to what was it doing last year? That guy from Kansas City, went and shot his baby mama, and then he killed himself too. Yeah. He went to the facilities and killed himself. So I'm pretty sure there are a lot of undocumented cases of spousal abuse in the NFL. So I'm pretty sure they're gonna let him go behind this. They should. And you know that the NFL has been trying to get women on board for a long time now.
I've talked to you before about the marketing of the game.
Yeah.
It's turning itself into a TV show that women can stay at home and watch with who? Their young sons. Because we all know how the demographics of the country are changing in terms of single parents raising young men who want to be involved in football. And so, to your point, on that broader scale, if that's Roger Goodell and that's the thinking of the Baltimore Ravens, you are correct. But if the thinking of the Baltimore Ravens is the old Jamal Lewis, Ray Lewis, we insulate, we circle the wagons, we do all of this.
Well, if I'm Ozzie Newsome, the first call I'm placing is to the owner and just asking him a question. How do you want to present this organization?
There you go.
And then once my boss tells me that, then it's decisions made.
Right.
I mean, the shelf life of running back's not great, as you said. Arguably his worst season.
Mm-hmm.
He's been in the league 4 or 5 years now,
Yep.
6 years, something like that.
Came in with Mendenhall out of U of I.
I wouldn't brag about that, but so you cut them loose. I think is an appropriate thing to do if that's from where your owner's coming from. And if he's not, then I don't think he should be an owner, honestly. So the draft's coming up. There are running backs in the draft.
Right.
I mean, you got to take a stand at some point in time. Given the political climate of our country, I think they have no choice but to cut them loose.
I think both of you have so eloquently stated it. No need for me to add any more. I agree with both of you. I think if the NFL is not about lip service, when they talk about the imagery and about what they really, and then going to your point about bringing more women in to be fans, there should be a joint press conference with Roger Goodell and the owner of the Baltimore Ravens standing side by side, saying this type of behavior will no longer be condoned.
Will not be tolerated.
It will not be tolerated on the field, off the field, during the season. If you really are honest about the game, because then if you do this, what you're saying is the game is above.
What's right?
That's right. That's what you're saying if he stays on that team.
All right, cool. We got it. All right, we're going to have to go to break here. Just when we come back, we're going to talk about Jason Collins getting to work out with the Nets. He might be, not necessarily, but he might be signing a 10-day contract. Mm-hmm. Also, Mike and I agree on something today, that we think that the NBA All-Star Game is a utter joke.
I don't agree.
I know you wouldn't, but that's okay. That's okay. I mean, come on. Imagine if they played like that in the NFL. Better yet, baseball.
They do play like that in the NFL.
They just throw underhand pitches in baseball. That's what they might as well do. NBA All-Star Game, it sucked. We'll be back with more Talking Sports right after these. Something like that.
I don't know.
Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Yeah,
Welcome back.
I think he is.
Talking Sports WBCP 1580. UPTV, Channel 5.
That's Veronica over there behind the camera.
Veronica's doing one heck of a job. You know, you think, now Veronica's probably got some super technical skills. First of all, to be able to get us three squeezed into that lens.
You do take up a lot of space.
Thank you for noticing.
Stop pointing that out.
And for her to run around the corner and tell us about you versus.
Oh, yeah.
That's savvy. She's going places. Keep up the good work, Veronica.
Ask her what's the channel on Comcast.
Channel 5, isn't it?
Oh, that's,
She's like, hey, I don't know.
see.
Don't ask me.
What is it on Dish TV?
I don't know. Doesn't come on Dish TV.
You know?
No. This is Urbana Public Access, is what it is.
It doesn't come on Mediacom.
We just appreciate the fact that 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Saturdays, if you're up, you know,
Yeah, tune in, check us out.
check us out.
If not, you can go to UP TV and they have it on the video, right?
YouTube.
Yeah. So just in case you miss it or you don't get up that early, tune us in.
Yeah.
NBA All-Star Game was played, what was that, Sunday?
Mm-hmm. Fantastic.
What was it, 166 to
156.
Come on.
700 to 659.
Now, I know Joe's a big NBA fan, and, you know, this is showcasing the, basketball's elite as they run up and down the court, showboating, dunking, throwing up shots. No defense whatsoever, and that's what pissed me off. Come on, if you're going to play a basketball game, play a basketball game.
Which they did.
Put in a little effort.
Which, to score 166 points,
No effort,
It's
no
not hard to
defense.
do when nobody's playing defense.
Exactly.
They're playing the Olay defense.
okay, let me
Yeah, explain it, Joe.
explain to you two Jim Naismiths or whatever you are, you old peach basket that farts. Let's talk about this thing in the 21st century context.
I don't really care. Play some defense. Now, we got on the the NFL, you know. The NFL had to revamp their all-pro game because of mediocre play.
Okay.
No defense. I mean, it's already vanilla enough as it was. But no defense whatsoever. Scoring, 40, 50 points?
Can't hit anybody.
Yeah, exactly. And you see how that changed in this year's ball game. But the NBA All-Star game, same thing. No defense. Oh, well, you stand in front of somebody, you go stand there and watch him shoot. Turn around, give him a high five before you run back down the floor waiting to get your pass so you could throw one up.
Are you done with your little soliloquy? Like the old man sitting on the get off my lawn.
I watched the first 5 minutes. Then what was on? I turned on the Beatles thing. I think the Beatles encore presentation.
You just solidified my point right there. You went back to watch the Beatles.
Yeah.
You were singing the Beatles earlier, Joe.
Oh yeah, I know. See, but that shows how diverse I am. I can respect the oldies and I can get down with the new stuff.
Let me get my feet up.
Is it too much flowing under you?
Yeah, there is.
Got your boots?
They're in the truck, actually.
Let me respond to your trashing of a hallowed institution like the NBA. First of all, you have to recognize what the All-Star Weekend is about. It's similar. I'm going to put baseball up on this side, right side, if everybody at home watching. There's baseball. There's the NBA.
That'd be the left side for home watching.
Yeah, that's right. Right. Yeah, so the left side, thanks for correcting it for me,
You're welcome.
and the right side. Major League Baseball, they do the same thing in terms of they've taken their sport and turned it into, as you used the correct word, showcase. Because that's what it is. It's showcasing the best of the best. And the reason why people watch the home run derby and the dunk contest and then the all-star game on basketball and baseball. We, meaning us true sports fans, the people who appreciate the greats of the greats, is we want to see things done that we know, number one, we can't do, and number two, we know we're not going to see in a regular season game. So in baseball, a pitcher comes up there, he normally will throw a change-up, screwball. He's going to try to keep a batter off balance. But in the All-Star game, what is he going to do? He's going to throw him 3 pitches right down the middle of the pipe, 98 miles an hour, sauce all over. Why? He knows it's exhibition. Number 2, it's the best against the best. He throws that 98 mile an hour heater. If that batter catches it, that thing's going 500 feet out of the park. Everybody at home, the imagery that everybody gets to see, Sam just hit one 500 feet. The crowd's going crazy. I've never seen a ball hit that far. I've never seen a ball hit that far off of Mike. Mike normally, would have mowed Sam down, blah, blah, blah. NBA basketball game, Blake Griffin, dunk fest. 18 of his 19 baskets were dunked. But you saw dunks that you will never see Blake Griffin do in a game. And then going to your point, let's play some defense. I want to see some defense. Do you want to see Kevin Durant career be risked because he sticks his hand up in front of the rim as LeBron James is coming down?
Well, why even play the game? Just do
Just let me finish. Don't
just do the
interrupt.
3-point shooting.
No,
Just do the dunk
because they're
and leave
doing
it at that.
things, as I said, it's a showcase. It's just like when you go to the Chicago car show and they have the cars that you normally don't see at your local lots here. They're showcasing. They're letting you see the best of the best. That's like, well, if I can't drive that Corvette, why even have it out here? Rah, 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 rah. You're just a grumpy old man who doesn't appreciate the finer things in life. Because as soon as the game was over with, all these guys went back to their respective teams.
What do you call them?
And last night, the same 2 guys, LeBron James and Kevin Durant, had a battle on Durant's home court, and LeBron came out the best. And there was no complaints about that. Showcase. Stop looking for guys for your satisfaction.
That's right.
Stop looking for them to injure themselves. This ain't the Christians and the Lions. This ain't the Gladiators. This is basketball. Appreciate. It's like fine art.
Help me out here.
I'm finishing.
Appreciate
As
watching
soon as
the.
he takes a breath.
Well, I guess we'll appreciate the fine art that's in front of you, and stop being so critical because you can't finger paint, so you criticize the artist.
That was a waste of airtime.
No, it's just the fact that you can't do what they do, so you criticize what they do.
Going to your Major League Baseball analogy thing where you're talking about seeing guys throw 100 mile an hour and mowing people down, they only get to see that at the All-Star game. No, all you got to do is watch Cardinal baseball. You see that every year. Boom. And secondly, explain the dunk contest to me.
Now, this year's, obviously, the format was bad. I agree with that. I'm not questioning that.
Who won?
They're still trying to figure that out between that goofy format. The point is that, like the home run derby, I love the home. I don't care if the bats are corked, if they use aluminum bats or whatever. I want to see a guy hit a 600-foot home run. Why? Because I can't do it. So it's entertainment to me.
Have you ever tried to do it?
No, because nobody pays me $13.7 to try to hit a 600-foot home run.
Go to the batting cage sometime.
Oh, yeah, I'll hit one out there. The point is, it's like anything else in life. Sometimes you gotta go ahead and take the sizzle and stop worrying about the steak. That's what this All-Star Weekend is about. It's about the sizzle.
The funniest, I guess, if you will, thing that I've heard about the All-Star game or even the few games afterwards was you were talking about KD and LeBron having their little battle in Oklahoma City, but did you see where Westbrook and Durant were talking about how windy it was in Oklahoma, and said it blew LeBron's hairline back.
No, they didn't.
Yeah, they did. I'll show it to you when we get done.
You guys are just. He's you know what? He sits on the porch with you as you yell at the kids to get off your lawn.
Yes, sir, we do.
And
That's what we do.
And he spits in the spit too.
And we listen to Cardinal baseball and 100-mile-an-hour fastballs going down hitters.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
how they were mowing down those Red Sox. But moving forward,
yeah. At least they got there. What the Cubs do.
That's just like
Matter of fact, pitchers and catchers reported what last week I think
Yep,
it was.
hence the hat. For those of you watching on TV.
Oh God.
Are you a Cubs fan?
Well, we ain't gonna get into that just yet.
Right, we're not talking baseball.
Are you a Cubs fan?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Say it louder.
I am a Cub fan.
There you go. Let them hear you.
They know it. I'm not running from it.
How'd you graduate from college?
Easy. I said wait until next year. That's what my professor said.
You know, Jason Collins, he's getting to work out with the Brooklyn Nets. They need they need a big man.
Mm-hmm.
So
Didn't he play for them last? I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they
Was it them or the Wizards? It was the Wizards.
It may be the Wizards.
Yeah.
You may
It
be
was the
right.
Wizards. He was number 99
Yep.
because he played for the Celtics and then he played for the Wizards.
Yeah. So they possibly might sign him to a 10-day contract for what it's worth.
They need some help.
Yeah. Now I will say this: Jason Collins has already been in the league for what 12, 13
14 years, something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think this signing will not be in, I think, the same stratosphere as the Michael Sam's.
Right.
And the reason why I say that is Jason Collins, over his years, has already built relationships within the locker rooms of other teams with other players, etc. Guys know Jason Collins.
Right.
I think because of that foundation that's been built, if they sign Jason Collins to 10 days, no controversy. Well, I'll say minimal controversy.
Yeah, there you go.
Michael Sam's is like he's moving into the neighborhood. Let's use that analogy. He's a stranger. He may have had a great relationship on campus with the rest of the Missouri Tigers, but he'll be moving into a new neighborhood.
Did I say that last week
Pretty much.
when Namika was here?
You probably did.
Yeah.
I said, but moving into that new neighborhood, if Michael Sam's, as I said last week, comes in and plays good football, guess what he is?
He's a football player.
That's it.
I agree.
That's it.
I agree.
Jason Collins has already established himself as being a basketball player. So I think that's why this is to me, I don't want to, like last week we were talking about minimizing it. You don't want to minimize it, but the reality is Jason Collins has played NBA basketball at an elite level for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I think part of the problem, that may not be the right word, but when you see the crawler across the bottom of the TV screen on, the Everything Sports Network thing, and it says Brooklyn Nets are thinking about signing Jason Collins according to our sources, and then you get if they do, he'll be the first openly gay player in the 4 major sports.
Right.
What's the point of that? Everybody knows that.
right.
So,
And that's why I go back to the same, it may not be the same thing, but how the media is now creating stories.
right, exactly.
When I was talking about the USA versus Russia and this great victory for the United States over Russia. No,
Hold on, but isn't that their job?
no, it's not. Their job is to report the news, not create the news.
Come on now.
Exactly.
And that's the issue.
Come on.
Unless you work for Fox.
Well,
Creating news.
that's not.
Creating news is
I think
what
Fox
sells.
is owned by Disney and they just have to create stuff.
Creating news is what sells.
No, it's not.
You got to hype it up.
You can.
There's a difference between hyping it up
And
saying something just to make a story.
right.
But as long as it's fact, it's their job.
See, and that's where the debate comes in. I don't think that's
Long-
their job.
Long as it's fact.
Here's what I would believe a good journalist would be doing. If you're sharing information that's not readily known to the public based on your research, I think that's good journalism. If you're telling me information that is obvious to a 5-year-old, that's not good journalism.
Particularly if you're just saying it
To try to create
the story, because it was a story 6 months ago,
Right.
when he made the announcement. Everybody knows that.
Right. And it's almost like a tag. It's like we're gonna tell the story, but the tag is always gonna be
Right.
He's gay.
right. Jason Collins scores 13 points against 8 rebounds. Oh, by the way, remember
first
first
gay player
openly
to do
gay
it.
to do it. Jason Collins was ejected. First openly gay player to be ejected. It's gonna be continue to be a
shut up.
tag. We know that. But if Jason Collins is playing good basketball, like I said, this is not to diminish who he is as an individual, but now the story of, is this a sports story or is this a human interest story? And that's to me, where the human interest comes in, if it's something that, when they give background stories on an individual and we didn't know.
Then it's news.
Exactly. Jason Collins being gay, he was on the cover, we'll hold it up, Sports Illustrated. He's been on the cover of SI.
Mm-hmm.
This has been a story already
story,
discussed. Right. The story has already been discussed. He was at the State of the Union as a guest of Michelle Obama. It's out there. As Mike's saying, now when ESPN, the magazine, when they report that Jason Collins may get a 10-day contract, report that Jason Collins is getting a 10-day contract. No need for a tag.
Because he's getting a potential 10-day contract because he's a basketball player.
Not
he's
because
not
he's
getting
gay.
a contract because he's an openly gay man in America.
Right. That's why I say, if ESPN's making a report, talk about the sports side. If CNN or a television magazine, they're telling the human interest side, I think that's where it's appropriate, because they may be sharing some more information that we quite frankly don't know about. That's all I'm saying.
We cool.
We're just checking, man.
How much time we got left?
About
Time enough
15
to-
minutes.
Huh?
About 15.
About 15 minutes. All right. I got some Black History facts.
Uh-oh.
You know, this is Black History Month.
Is it?
For those who didn't
Except
know.
in Florida.
So, so I have some.
This is not seen down in Florida.
Okay.
It's on YouTube. It might be.
I have some facts here that some little known facts. Now, some of you might have known this, some of you might not know, but here's some stuff I got to tell you. The first blacks selected for All-American basketball honors was
Douche.
Don Barksdale from UCLA in 1947.
Don Barksdale. They got a picture of him with the tight shorts and the belt,
No, I don't
Ball.
want to
Big old afro.
big fro.
see it. Yep. First black signed by the National Basketball Association team was
Is it Jimmy Collins?
Charles Cooper.
Charles Cooper.
Yep. Signed with the New York Knickerbockers in April 1950.
They call him CC.
You were there for that, weren't you?
Who?
He was on leave.
Yeah, I was on leave. All right, let's see. In 1929, All-Black College Tuskegee Institute in Tuskegee, Alabama, became one of the first women's track team.
I did not know that.
Did not know that.
You are really educating us today.
Hey, I got some stuff here.
Keep going.
That same year, Ora Washington won her first American Tennis Association single title. She was the first.
Wow.
Let me see what else we got down here. Alice Coachman became the first black woman to win an Olympic gold medal. She won a high jump, 1948. That's when they were still jumping forward.
Forward, right. They weren't doing the Fosbury fly.
No, I don't know.
And they were jumping in the sand.
Okay, let me see what else I got down here. You know, we all know about Wilma Rudolph. Lynette Woodward, 1985. She became the first black woman to join the Harlem Globetrotters.
Yes. Do you know our own Jolette Law, who used to coach the University of Illinois?
Mm-hmm.
Proud, right?
Yes. I asked her one day, I said, she still got those shorts. I said, on a Saturday, do you put them on, cut Sweet Georgia Brown on and clean the house?
Yeah, okay, what else we got here?
She looked at me. All right.
First black middleweight boxing champion was Tiger Flowers.
Put him up.
He won it in New York in February 26, 1966. Defeating, no, hold on, is that 1966? Or that 26?
26.
1926, defeating Harry Gibbs.
I was gonna say
15 rounds.
if he was the first middleweight, then what was Sugar Ray Robinson doing?
No.
When him and Jake LaMotta was killing each other. In
This is a great segue, too.
right.
Yeah. Okay. First black welterweight champion was Joe Walcott, who won the title at Fort Erie, Ontario, Canada, on December 18, 1901. We all know about Jack Johnson.
And then February 25th, 1964. What happened?
Oh, I heard that already. Muhammad Ali knocked out Sonny Liston.
Wrong. Cassius Clay
Knocked
out Sonny Liston.
Whatever.
Well, if you want to talk about history,
Same dude.
get it
50 years ago. Can you imagine that?
get it right. Get it right.
And the man is still alive.
What I would love to be able to do is go to the, was it Ali Center down in Louisville, his museum. I think one of the things that when you talk about history and you think about sports figures in history and tying in, and I know we had a lot of debate last week about what athletes can do, etc. But if you think about one athlete, just one, who was able to affect change inside his sport and outside his sport, he'd have to be hands down.
Go.
You know, I mean, when you start thinking about, first of all, the time period. I don't know if you've seen, there's a movie called, it's on HBO called Muhammad Ali's Greatest Fight. And what it is the behind the scenes look at all the Supreme Court justices when they were trying to make their decision on his conscientious objection. And it is riveting based on, it does it's a time period piece, because think about the thought process of an old white Supreme Court justice, 4 of which had they were military veterans, and you have a man who's with, at that time, considered one of the most radical organizations within the United States. And he's saying directly, he's suing the federal government, telling the federal government they're wrong, you're in an unjust war, therefore I'm not going to participate. You would think, if you, like I said, if you think about the piece, the period of time that this is happening, and the background of some of these justices, it would have been a slam dunk 8-0 against Ali. Kaput.
Well, and I think even some of those justices, I would think, I haven't looked it up or anything, but I would think they were probably from the South as well.
Right, and that's what my point is. Think about all of that history.
He did get 3 years. Was it 3 years?
Yeah, 3, I think.
You know, and you think about their personal experiences and the fact that they have to make a decision based on law, but law pertaining to their life experiences in relation to an African American man making this statement at that point.
Well, and even the courage that took for them to rule in his favor.
Right. And that's why I really think if people watch that, you really get a good behind, because now you get to see the clerks that work for the justices and how they played an influential part in the decision-making process for them, how they talk about law, how they talk about race, and how they talk about the war.
Right.
And I think when we talk about, historical figures, and to me, what it showed was how interwoven in the fabric of America a lot of these things are that people don't want to face, but they were forced to,
Right. Exactly.
because of because you think about, if they say no, let's say they say no, the direction and course of history,
It's changed.
right? I mean, right now, obviously, we don't know what would have happened if they said no, because they didn't. But imagine if you look at the context at the time of the country and what was happening within the country, both of you being veterans, what would have happened in terms of military service, in terms of draft dodgers, in terms of race relations, in terms of, now let's bring it down to Muhammad Ali. What happens if he doesn't win? When we talk about the history of sport, do we have the
You don't have that chapter.
right? And that's what I'm saying. Think about what happens. Joe Frazier now doesn't have an Ali. If you don't have a Joe Frazier and an Ali, you don't have the fight in Madison Square Garden in 1971. You don't have the imagery of an Ali and now other guys, the Ken Nortons,
George Foreman.
the George Foremans, the Ron Lyles, the Ernie Shavers. Your Ali is now your hub. All of these guys had basically their 15 minutes of fame because of him.
Well, and I think even becoming more current, you don't have a Sugar Ray Robinson or Sugar Ray Leonard.
Right. You don't have Leonard. You don't have
Pacquiao, Hagler,
any of those guys, because
Mike
of the showmanship that Ali was able to portray, because of the opportunity to get back into the ring.
I will disagree with one thing you said at the beginning of this, and you said athlete. I think you should take athlete out of the equation, because name another human being
Right.
that has made the impact on the world that he has. And I don't think you'd be hard pressed to find one.
A reason why I say athlete is because of the context of sports that we talk about all the time.
Right.
But if we were just talking, just like you said, current events, a historical figure.
Well, in boxing gave him, we became more aware of who he was and the fight he was fighting because of boxing. Because if he had just been, Cassius from the garbage man from Louisville, nobody would
Right.
really care.
But I also think reason why I put it back into sports context, let's go with what we just said, historic figure. Cassius Clay knocking out Sonny Liston. First of all, think about a young 20-some-year-old Cassius Clay.
Fresh off the Olympics.
Right. Who was a 8-1, 10-1 underdog
Something like that, yeah.
to beat, and he made him quit. When Sonny Liston was basically, what was he called? The Bear. That was his nickname back
He
then.
was old too.
He was old, but
Some punch.
this would have been like Mike Tyson, to a modern day Mike Tyson. Because Sonny Liston was a man for the mob. He laid folks out for them too.
Mm-hmm.
He was well protected. And for a guy like this to come in and the mouth running, the style of fighting, which
I'm a pretty man.
there you go. And at the heavyweight level, you take all that and tie it in and get this man to quit, and then to go on publicly in some of what we're talking about now in terms of terms of current events, and all of that into one individual. Like I said, you'd be hard pressed whether it be just, as you said, athlete or just individual. You'd be hard pressed to find anybody who's been able to do that. And the final thing is, think of his not only just his political stance, but you had never seen anyone behave. Forget what political stance. His behavior brought some of the worst vitriol from other fans. We talked last week about how fans behave, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Think about how the hate mail and what people thought of him just as an individual. And to take that and parlay that moving forward, and you go to 1996 at the Olympics, and who's lighting the Olympic torch and being revered
Worldwide.
Why? There you go. That's the reason why I think in terms of history, because usually when somebody gets that moniker, I don't like Sam, it sticks and it stays. and they kind of pewter out in the history. Not too many people's image. He doesn't change his image.
Better.
Right. His image got better as he got older because the world changed. He didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reason why I think, sometimes a guy can be a bad guy. George Foreman, obviously not on the same level, but everybody looked at George Foreman as being this mean, angry guy. And he leaves boxing and comes back and he's grilling hamburgers and he's George. But he it was a metamorphosis of his change as his personality. Never happened with Ali. Ali was the same man consistently. He was straightforward. He was honest. And I think from that, that's the reason why, like I said, gotta be.
All right, local stuff real quick.
First of all, Mike always talk about I got maroonitis and all this.
Loseritis.
Champaign Centennial has clinched the boys' Big 12 conference.
Yay.
Won it Wednesday, beat Decatur MacArthur. Champaign Central has won 5 games in a row. They just beat Urbana Tuesday over at Urbana High School. Tonight they play Eisenhower. Urbana had senior night. Girls action. Centennial girls, who have won the Big 12 4 years in a row, ousted first round of the playoffs by Decatur Eisenhower. Champaign Central ousted also. Lost to Mount Zion. So both their seasons over. So
Urbana still in?
No.
Dang.
Why do you keep asking that question?
I want to know.
You just want to know.
I don't want to
Do you ever come out?
know.
Do you ever come out to see Urbana play or anything like that?
Not recently.
Do you know that Urbana boys basketball games are also streaming on UPTV?
I knew that.
Do you?
Yeah.
What channel would it be on?
Channel 6. 5. 99 if you're Uverse.
Jason is correct. It is Channel 6.
Oh, is it?
Comcast.
Why you look at me like I was wrong?
Because you said Channel 5. Because you said it because we said it. But it's Channel 6, like
Okay.
Jason said.
All right, I got you.
99 on what?
Uverse.
What?
Uverse.
Say it one more time.
Uverse.
You say things 3 times, you remember. So I just want to make sure.
Now, who told you that?
I can't remember.
Don't
Guy, you said his name 3 times. I can't remember who he is.
don't forget the swimsuit issue next week.
Swimsuit issue will not be coming in this studio.
Okay.
It's not appropriate for UPTV.
Let's see
And you.
what else we got here? First string baseball.
Oh,
Come on, Joe.
people watching, listening.
Say it 3 times.
Say it 3 times. Baseball sign-ups. Come on out. Douglas Center tomorrow. 11:30, 12:30, ages 4 through 9. 12:45 to 1:45, ages 10 through 12. Little League. I know the weather doesn't give you the idea of baseball. They'll also be having Kiwanis sign-ups on February 25th and 26th. You can do those at Douglas Center. Also do those at Sullivan Park Hill. And you can register online. First time in the history. You can register for Little League Baseball online. And it goes T-ball 4 to 6, Peanuts 6 to 8, Farm League 9 to 10, Suited League 11 to 12. So,
When does tryouts start?
as soon as the weather gets better, Trying to do some stuff inside the gym over at Douglas. So if you're not doing anything, so after you watch us 7 to 9, UPTV channel 6 or 99
Uverse.
on Uverse, then you come on over to Douglas, work with the kids.
You ever try to catch a batted ball off a basketball floor?
It's hard
It really is.
because it picks up some speed.
It sort of like scoots
Yes.
like that.
You don't get any bad,
Get in front of the ball.
you don't get any bad hops though.
No, you get in front of the ball. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Talking Sports. We do this each and every Friday from 2 to 4. You tune in next week. We'll lace them up and do it again. Mike, thanks for stopping by again. I think Mike we're going to have to put him on the program.
Might as well. You didn't. I know one thing. It's a nice contrast between the dark blue and the black. Had that gold back there. Really shines on the screen.
I thought you were talking about my whiteness.
You're white?
Get out of here.
Get out of here.
Telling you.
Nobody.
The secret's out. It's on TV.
Oh, if you say it 3 times, he's white.
Say goodbye, Joe.
We'll be on channel 6 and 99. See, I did that.
I have nothing to say. Good night, folks.